we're going to discuss now the subject of timing, leg action and transference of weight and body actions.
Now, of course, we all know that walls counted as simple 1, 2, 3, but we're going to take it further.
So 1, 2, 3, there are 3 beats in the bar of the music. So every beat takes certain amount of time, and we're going to look what we're doing on every beat. And actually, to get greater precision, we can also split the beat. So we can look what we're doing in the beginning of the beat and then the end of the beat, as the beat itself works as a time unit in the music. So we can use the count 1 and 2 and 3, and then we'll check many different things that we're doing during these counts.
And we will check that we actually fit each other, so which will help us stay together throughout the dance.
Let's begin with the leg action and transference of weight. If I take the step forward, so leg action on the standing leg begins from the previous bar at the end of the bar on beat 3, the end of it, and there is a flexing action of the leg that enables us to move better into 1. So we're not just taking one step without the preparation. From the previous bar, the previous beat, at the end of it, there is a preparation which is a flexing action of the leg that enables the body to move better into 1. So we always commence with and before we take 1. So, and the other leg on and starts moving into the position. And on 1, I'm going to get the weight onto the foot, but note, not full weight because we're still moving from the back foot. So it's going to be timed and 1. And notice the line that we are achieving when we time the actions correctly. Movement of the weight from the standing leg and usage of both legs. So flexing the leg that we're standing and moving freely the leg that is going to take the step. And 1. Also note the way we are completing the action from the leg we move the weight. So we should create long line from the toe to the hip. Now, in order to move well, the front leg is going to be flexing and the weight is going to be moving through the foot. Now, at the end of 1, and the leg is going to be moving past this leg into the next position. So, watch again. And 1 and 2. Now on 2, I'm going to arrive in the middle balance position. So if we take half of the natural turn as an example, it's going to be timed like this. And 1 and 2. Now from here, 2 in the middle, we're going to be closing through and achieve close position 3. On and again, we're going to flex the leg that just closed, and that's going to be preparation, that flexing action for the next step, which, if we continue with a natural turn, is going to be a step back. Now in the step back, on and, you see what's happening? The leg that I have weight on is flexing, the other leg is stretching. Now notice it's actually similar line, leg line developing at that moment as on the step forward on 1. Just in this case, it is on and. Now on 1, weight moves to the foot, 1, the other leg starts pulling towards it, the leg that now is becoming standing. On and, it's going to be passing the standing leg now, 2 placed into the next position.
Position of the middle balance.
Middle balance. And closing, reaching close position 3. And again, at the end of 3, and we're going to be producing lowering action, or sometimes called falling action. In the technique book, some of them it's called rise and fall, but we also call it a flexing action of the leg, which enables us to move to the step, whether it's forward or back, better, with a correct preparation. So,
and you would say that the timing of the leg action, if we're going back and forward, exactly the same for the man and the lady. It makes no difference.
yes, the way we time leg action and transference of weight, we use exactly same principles. Now let's take as example natural turn, now change step, and reverse turn, and we're going to apply the counting of 1 and 2 and 3 and we're going to try to time our leg actions, and then the way the body is rolling from one leg to another leg, from one foot to another foot, correctly. So then we have very continuous, smooth, and beautiful movement. We're going to do now this exercise of the natural turn, change step, and reverse turn. First of all, in slightly open hold, concentrating mostly on how we time our transference of weight and leg actions. And 1 and 2 and 3, 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 and stop. Let's take it now from this angle and in full hold now. We can also add the preparation step, and 1 and 2 and 3, 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 and 1 and 2, 3, and 1 and 2 and 3, and stop. Very good. One thing that I want to emphasize, already mentioned the leg line that is developing on 1 when you go forward, and on and when you go back. So that creates very long and beautiful leg line if we use actions correctly and if we time them correctly. Now with the leg that we're taking the step forward, note this thing. So first it is flexing and moving forward. Now after we lowered, the step is from the heel, but we shouldn't try to take the heel right away because it doesn't create correct and beautiful leg lines. On and, as the leg is moving to the position, it is moving by moving the knee forward, and it moves across the floor with a toe. Now from this moment we have a straightening action of the leg that takes the heel, and then we immediately roll onto the flat foot. So heel leading steps are not like this when we take the heel throughout. Actually, heel gets to do the work for a very short moment in time, and it's going toe, 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 heel, flat. That's how the heel leading steps should be done. So toe, 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 heel, flat. And the weight rolls onto the flat foot after we placed it from the heel. And 1. Watch it one more time. And 1. Now another moment worth mentioning is 2, when we're actually placing the foot on the toe. We should be in the middle of our rise. So in waltz, the rise is continuous. Most figures, most basic figures, they have continuous rise. And the timing of the rise is such that we commence to rise at the end of 1, continue 2, 3, and lower at the end of 3. So in this way, as we discussed, 1 and 2 and 3, it would be that, and that was the lowering action, we described flexing, 1 going through, and as the leg is passing, we commence to rise, 2 continue, and continue, 3 reaching the highest point, and lowering. But 2, as I said, worth mentioning, it's not the highest point yet. If we actually overuse the feet 2, we destroy correct path of movement, and we're not going to get correct continuous rise. So we're actually on the toe, but at that moment, 2, it's a soft toe, from where we can continue to rise into 3. So please note that, and both on the step 2 after the step back, same thing, not maximum rise yet. 2, we actually in the middle of the rise, and very often there is a footwork of no foot rise from the leg that we're coming from to assist the continuation of the rise, as well as balancing the turn when you're inside of the turn.
I would add that sometimes when I'm rising, I actually feel rise almost happening by closing my legs versus by overusage the feet, what Arūnas has already mentioned. So it's done by the big muscles versus the toes.
So these details are so important in getting correct leg action and also being precise with where the weight is. So getting correct timing with the transference of weight and getting the leg actions correctly, timing them correctly, will give you smoothness of the movement. You will transfer the weight beautifully, and we have good quality of movement across the floor.
And a good way to practice it, first of all, to count out loud and dance to your own count, and then count out loud with music and trying to synchronize the music, your actions, and counting.
Next thing that we would like to discuss is the body actions. Same approach we're going to use, so referring to the timing, the way we were counting the beats and half beats, 1 and 2 and 3, we're going to look what our body is doing. Now, in the body we primarily do 2 basic actions. It is rotational, so we're rotating the bodies, and also we are swaying. Now, of course, it blends together, rotation and sway, and it blends together with the movement across the floor. Just when we rotate and sway, we use different areas of initiation. So rotation, we feel, goes through the hip area, initiated, and that then goes into the rest of the body. So that's, of course, affecting the rib cage, the shoulders, and the head, as well as the legs. So usually we feel that it is, of course, going together with the lowering action, and we feel the changes in the knees are happening because of that rotation. If we take the sways, we feel the area of initiation is more in the rib cage, and that, of course, affects the whole body, affects the shoulders, the head, the hips, and then, of course, we can feel certain reaction through our legs and feet. So different areas of initiations and create one harmonious movement. When we look at this way, one time, it's an inclination of the body to the side. One side is going down, and the other side is therefore stretching up. Now, as I just mentioned, the area of initiation we feel mostly here. And then, of course, that creates an effect in the top line. So when you see changes of the sway happening, so you see one side going down, the other up, the shoulders changing, the elbows changing, but it's not produced with the frame we feel it's produced under the frame in this area, and that creates the effect in the hold.
It's also important to mention that the head follows this way. It doesn't actually produce it. So the head weight doesn't wander from left to right when we're doing that, but it's actually almost staying still, balancing over our hips. Would you agree with me?
Very well said. It's when we align ourselves from the beginning, we were discussing posture, we mentioned that head is over the hips. When we dance, it is more or less over the hips, even with the sways, because we curve the body in a way that creates the curve between the hips and the head, rather than hips and head moving opposite directions. So that is a better way of swaying, we believe, rather than shifting the base, if I take the hips as a base, and the head in the opposite directions, which we feel creates certain side loading over the body, and the movement across the floor becomes less efficient. So we curve the body, but in a way that we don't get the top, if we take the head at the top, and the base, if we take the hips as a base, moving opposite directions. They're still balancing
That's what not to do.
on top of each other, more or less vertically, with the curves changing one way to the right or to the left, but primarily initiating that change from the ribcage area. And then rotation from the hips, and if we blend together rotation and sway, you can get shaping like that. As Katyusha said, the head is reacting, and in most cases it can rotate towards the side that is moving down, or stay in the basic poised position, which is to the left. Now, if we look at the timing of it, when we rotate and how we rotate and when we sway, by using the same count, let's see on and what's happening. On and, I also commence the rotation. And many figures that are danced in closed position on one, if you look in the technique book, it says it has CBM, contra body movement. Now, contra body movement is defined as the rotation of the body when the opposite side of the body is turning towards the moving leg. So in this case, if we take half natural turn, I step forward with the right leg, Katyusha in this case steps back with the left leg, and we have rotational action in the body. So on one, it is happening, CBM. It commences just before on and. Same as we looked at the timing of transference of weight. On and, there was an action to get our bodies going when we were flexing standing leg. At the same time as we're flexing, we are commencing rotational action. So we are commencing contra body movement, and it goes through one and one. That rotation serves us as a balancing factor as we move across the floor. It helps two bodies to fit better together. Also, when we have turn, like we do here in the natural turn, it works as initiation of the turn. So it's much easier to make turns when we have correct contra-body movement actions. Now, at the same time, as we're doing CBM, we start applying swaying actions. If we start from, just from natural turn without the previous step, so we would have no sway, slightly shaped to the left, but without full sway to the left. So the degree of how much sway we do initially on and is very little, but I feel the action is commencing. So and one, I feel that the right side is going down and the left side is going up. So, and that, as we mentioned, that is initiated through the rib cage, so that on 2 we can clearly see the change of sway has happened. So the right side is lower than the left side. If, for instance, we take it in the dynamics, that activity in changing the sways is even greater. If we take from 3 here into N1, so through that N, of course you should feel that one side started moving down, the other up. And 1. Continue doing that, and on 2 you should have a situation where it's very clearly seen that one side is lower than the other. So the changes of sways are obvious. Technically, it's usually described that 1 is straight, on 2 we have sway, which is increasing when we're going to 3, and then as we're lowering on N, the sway is neutralizing. Now, in our field, when we do that, we feel that activity in the body is continuous. So even when we're straight, that's visual effect straight, but we feel that the change is happening gradually. So one side is going down, the other up. Like I said, N1, I feel the activity, swaying activity in the body is there. Visual effect comes out on 2. And then from there continue into 3 with the same sway. And on N, we're going to start changing. And again, through 1, we're going to go through the neutral position. And on 2, we're going to have the indifferent sway. Now, we will try to use the same exercise, count, and then now watch the way we're combining that rotation in terms of CBM on 1, how it leads us into the turn that is happening between 1 and 2. Then also watch how the sways are changing. We're going to use half-beat timing in the hold with a preparation step, and 1 and 2 and 3 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 and stop. So hopefully you can see as we're counting and these half beats how we are rotating the body, how we're swaying. And it happens all the time. We feel that that activity, rotational and then swaying, is there all the time. Now, when we have different positions, it may change slightly, but we don't really feel that we are switching off. So it is there to a different degree, and then we have shapes changing from, in this combination you saw from right sway to left sway, and the timing is there to be used precisely so that the shapes are developing beautifully. And if we talk about the purpose of it, so one, of course, we're saying beautiful because from the aesthetics point of view, in space it looks more beautiful when the body is creating shapes. But also, with the swaying actions, we are achieving better balance as we make the turns. So it works as a balancing factor through the turns. Rotation, CBM, same thing. It helps to balance the progression and, of course, helps to make turns. So it has both visual effect as well as mechanical function helping our balance. So that would conclude the subject of timing, leg action, and transference of weight. And of course, now we just wrap the rotation and swaying, which are the body actions that we mainly use as we do it.